because I actually am honestly interested about how you guys became friends.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to wait.
It's how many years? It was, you were 18, 17?
I think it was like 2009 or 2010, something like that.
Yeah, I got sober in 2008, and I started going to church and trying to meet new people and things like that. And then I ended up at a church called Harvest.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, that was over there that me and Ben both went to. And man, some of like the earliest memory, he used to show up to church with black eyes. Like all the times.
With black guys?
With black eyes, yes. He would show up to church with black eyes, and I was like, this is my guy right here. Finally, someone in Wilmer gets it. Black eyes. And like one of the times he came to church, it looked like, I was almost like, bro, do you need help? You know, like I'm thinking to myself, like, are you getting picked on because you're a Christian or something? I didn't.
He's all built and stuff.
He's always been big. And I found out he was a fighter. He fought Golden Gloves. And that was pretty cool. And we were both chasing after God, like super crazy.
Dude, in those days, me and you were like outside Walgreens holding
signs.
Got Jesus.
Yeah, signs
that was
and
me.
stuff like
With
that.
like milk mustaches.
No, Mario ones. So yeah, we started hanging out there. Ben was in my wedding. He was a part of my wedding, or our wedding party. You were an usher.
Yeah. Kind of seems like now that should have been a little higher.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely. I mean, so it was.
I can't say crap. You weren't in my wedding. That's a whole another story.
That is. So yeah, we just started hanging out. We started doing crazy stuff like making signs, Jesus signs and stuff, and just going out in the community and standing on First Street. And we just grown a bond from kind of the beginning, seeing him graduate from school, seeing him where he came from, such as like working at the Y and working 2 jobs, working overnights and stuff, and training over there, and then getting hired here here at Snap Fitness in Wilmer, getting hired here as a manager, to buying the place, to renovating the place, to growing the place, and then him getting married and buying a house and buying another house. And so just watching like how his life has unfolded since then has been pretty cool. And we've just stayed really close because he's like from that early, besides my wife and my Christian walk and my walk, like I've known him. He was like one of my new friends as I was trying to get sober and stuff. So
Chris always gives me crap. Like when we first met, he was there as my dad was like scolding me on how to how to put the dishes properly in the dishwasher, which is my biggest pet peeve. If my wife ever gives me crap about that, I'm done. Don't tell me to move that.
Like I am.
But I remember Chris was there when I was
at his house when he was living with his parents.
I was like right as I was, I don't know, graduating or about to or whatever, and I was still kind of in that I'm still like under my parents' wing sort of phase, and so I was getting just scolded like a kid about how I needed to do the dishwashers.
I knew where Brandon's room was because it always smelled like weed. Like there was like an aura of just weed and armpit.
My brother would grow weed in our closet that we shared together.
What?
And he got my parents, he left on a missions trip, which he went to that missions trip and just got a bunch of weed stuff. And,
seeds.
And during that time, he convinced them to water it for them and just convinced them that it was, I don't know, oregano or something like that. And they totally bought it.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Watered it.
Wow. That's next level.
That's a pretty baller move to get your parents to do that without them knowing.
True. Even if it is your own parents.
And so it really did start on the church end of things. And I got you into the gym. That was kind of a big thing. And so, and then we both really mutually got into Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And those things have been a big part of just our
threads.
pastimes for the last decade.
Yeah. And we've just kind of gone along with each other
And then we got Zach in
through
the
our
mix.
successes. Yes. And then Zach came in.
What up?
We call him COVID Zach because that's when he showed up.
It's me.
It's me.
COVID's
Oh,
COVID.
she's like,
COVID Zach. I started it all.
So tell everybody what you were doing with that bat again.
He is from Wuhan. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to talk?
I mean, yeah, basically, I guess I got thrown into the mix.
Yeah, well, we're both setting each other up, and Zach's like, "Now, Zach, tell us about yourself. How you?"
It's like, yeah,
How did we?
your face was
how did
just
you
the
meet?
best of that.
No, and Zach came in around COVID time when all that stuff started happening. He came in as a trainer. You were going to be right, and man, what a great time for him to show up and bring kind of who he is into the mix. This was
It was a weird thing because he started, and then it was pretty much shut down right after that, right?
yeah, it was like 2 months of like just being trained in on the computer, not really doing much training, just kind of here and there, and then then we shut down, and then it was basically
tear this wall down.
Yeah, it went from being like, hey, learn this
nothing,
computer to
Jim.
like learn how to train and stuff like that to like, hey, you're doing construction now. So
What was my job
You might not
description
know this,
again?
but,
for like 6-7 months. You still do it.
yeah,
I
but
it
it is
needs to be
actually
done.
that
I
was
still
worth
do.
learning. Yeah, we had a lot of fun in that period of time. Just the three of us, really, because there was very few other people around us on our day-to-day life.
Yeah,
So
and no one could come in.
Yeah.
here,
Right.
so it was just us
and the
in
construction, the other two guys like Rodney and Keith.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
otherwise, just us three, just kind of
here. No human action.
Broing out.
Yeah.
broing out exactly. Just
So,
listening to music,
Yeah,
no
it
controls.
was
on,
it was
just
an
hanging out.
Awesome chance to
Yeah.
bond, and yeah.
You should have recorded a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been a lot of gold.
Yeah.
That was it was such a period of growth because man, it was so many emotions in that period of time, man. There was so much like.
And I want to hear this about you too.
yeah.
I want to touch on that with you. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, even to try to sum up like what that feeling was for us.
We all
because
thought
I
we were
was-
going to lose our livelihoods.
Yep.
Everything is done. I'm building a church. He's building a gym. He's been buying houses. Zach's he's his own entrepreneur. So yeah, giving back.
Thank you, Chris.
But he was just working in. All right,
Yeah.
did I make the right move coming from where he was at and things like that? So we all were kind of like. His job depends on if he's going to keep this place awake,
Right,
or
right.
that if Ben's going to keep it going. And Ben's like, I don't know. And so both of us just kind of came to a point where we're like, we're just going to go all in. And whatever I opened up the church, and
you weren't supposed to.
in the middle of
Rebel.
COVID, and Ben just started
Did you get
tearing
turned
stuff
in for doing
down.
that?
I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How'd that play out again?
The BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension.
Jeez.
Yeah, frickin' I'm a thug. They got a hold of the sheriff here. The sheriff, was cool the whole time. He just sent me an email like, look, we know what you're doing. Kind of almost, I don't care. Just let's calm it down, okay?
Yeah.
This is I don't want. Because if I get called, then I'm going to have to come and deal with this. I don't got beef with you at all. So do me a favor and just keep it quiet, kind of. And basically 2 weeks after that anyway, everything started opening. Not everything, but they started opening up some.
Yeah, they started
stuff.
laxing on all of that.
Yeah, church still was not one of those things, though.
Yeah, you hit it right
So-
before it changed. And dude, I was in the craziest fork road because just had a new baby, and there was somebody that was considering buying the gym from me, and we were in an active
forgot about
conversation, and the number was pretty good. It was a really good number, and So all of a sudden I'm in this situation because at that period of time I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. I was kind of in this limbo thing, whether or not I wanted to stay down the gym direction or go a different direction with more real estate or what. And now it's shut down. We're losing money like crazy, and this guy still wants to buy it. He still wants to buy it from me. And I remember having a conversation with my dad in the early days of this, where people are wearing gas masks everywhere, and he's like, "You need to sell that, because the whole world's going to fall apart and you're not ever going to get this chance again." And for whatever reason, I just didn't go that direction. And on top of that, I was under contract with the building down the street, the old, what's there now, that mortgage company now?
Yeah.
Supreme Lender.
Supreme Lender, yep. Yeah, they bought it right after I ended up pulling out. So I was under contract. I had probably $40,000 of earnest money sitting in that deal or more, right? That if I canceled on that deal, I would lose completely. And we were in the middle of a lease with it. And the plan was to buy that. Well, what I ran into was the commercial. We were in this period of time where I needed to execute on like the property next to it right away because we needed it for parking and blah, blah, blah. And my bank was like, "I don't know that it's worth anymore what you had it under contract for," because everything, this was in the market dropped by like 100% in a couple weeks. The real estate market, nothing was selling anymore. You talk to every agent, they're like, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And I needed to execute on that deal like now. And in the meantime, I found myself as I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do, I found myself in conversation with the company that owned this building now, the Family Video. They had their parent company that just owns commercial real estate. And I started getting into conversation with them, like, "Well, what would it look like what would you guys sell this for then?" And I was able to, in that conversation, things were so scary at the time. I mean, they had tenants all over the country not paying their rent. And that number was just coming down in landfalls in the negotiating process just because of that situation. That was the scariest time in history to buy commercial real estate. At that time, it was the stupidest thing to buy commercial real estate. Because are you sure we're going to have tenants? Are you sure anybody's going to stay in business? And so, yeah, I just took a big-ass bet on myself and me and my wife, and turned out pretty cool.
Jeez.
Yes. It
Anyways, what were you going to ask her? You said you had something to come back to?
It did. Well, I think we should
kind of gear this towards
My damn printer. Let me
Like,
turn that
what's
thing
happening?
What is going on here? Let's just start out with kind of why we're here. We wanted to talk with you and discuss with you just things you've been through in your life. We did this last week, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and it didn't turn out well. It turned out great.
It was a great conversation.
Actually, it was a great conversation. We just had some technical malfunctions.
Yeah.
So
we didn't record it.
that's a malfunction.
Did have a memory card in the recorder, and
We thought we were recording.
Yeah.
So we felt just kind of, you have a great story, and that we wanted to come back because yours is kind of the first thing we wanted to put out, because I think it's such a great vibe, and just conversation we had last time was really good too. So it was kind of like, yeah, let's get back to this as soon as we can with you.
Yeah.
So with all that, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us just kind of a little bit who you are before we start asking questions and getting into like the super backstory of your life.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird to introduce myself. It's like, my name is Mandy Nelson.
Hi, Mandy.
Yeah.
Hi, Mandy.
Yeah, and I don't actually know what to say to introduce myself, which is odd.
Just
but
talk. Yeah, talk.
Yeah.
So what do
are
you
you
do?
married? Do
What
you
do I
have
do?
kids?
Who
What do you
am
do
I?
say you
for
had
a
something
living?
you wanted to talk about today. Is there?
Yeah,
would
I
you
have a
rather bring
couple.
a specific thing up?
Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about a lot last time,
We
and I
did.
actually walked away. My heart was just like wide open. I like cried a lot that night in a good way. It was just like I felt so much gratitude for life and love and just like so much. And of course, we talked a lot about Lee
Yep.
that last podcast. So I just went home and I was just like, oh, you're the best.
Yeah, when you were explaining how you felt after that, that was touching, because you were talking about like how life was just brighter.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Those moments have been happening kind of like a lot since COVID.
Yeah.
I feel like the last 11 years has been like a major journey, and I went pretty deep into that last time. Oh. I don't know if I want to go into the full depths of it this time, all good. But yeah, I feel like my life right now, I have moments where it's like these veils get dropped, like veils between me and my perception of reality, between me and another human. And it's like, I feel like my heart just keeps expanding to take more in. And the more I allow myself to be loved by like God, life, other humans, I just like, it's like I just fall into more peace within my body. I fall into more love with like everything. And that was one of those moments where I walked away, and it was really healing. Like for me, it's really healing right now to be vulnerable, like especially with the masculine, and to be like seen and to be held and to be loved. It like actually physically does something to me now. Like it was like a release. Yeah. It's like, you know, you go back and you have a moment now that can redefine your story of like my relationship with men, you know. I'm healing in both my relationship with men and women, and it looks different with both. But it's like, you know, we had first originally talked about Lee being here to be with me for the podcast, because he's kind of like an anchor for me. He's always been like this safety. And I was like, no, I feel like I need to do this for myself, you know? Which
that takes some courage.
Yeah.
You know,
to just be here with you guys. And I walked away just so like grateful.
Did you want to, because that might sound may sound crazy to some, because they didn't have kind of the inside of your life.
Yeah, I can go into that.
Why you needed some healing with just male figures. Is that like, we don't have to go into that, but I mean, is that something you're willing to just briefly speak about? We don't got to go super deep.
I'm willing to go into both that with like men and women. But yeah, like we all learn just very early on like how we need to be to survive, because there's no perfect parent out there, because every parent is dealing with their own trauma and their own pain and their own stories. And we're lucky to live in a generation now where there's just a lot more people talking about it, a lot more available for us to know like, hey, I'm not alone. And like, this is how I can heal myself and reparent myself. And this is how I can journey through my shadows and find healing. But yeah, like for me, my story, it was like, I grew up learning like, okay, my environment, like I know I'm loved. There's never any big T trauma. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard it defined like that. So
T trauma?
Big trauma, like nothing huge ever happened to me. Like I was never assaulted or abused, you know, like in a very like known or perceived way.
That's an interesting distinction to make.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you almost feel if you don't have that, you're like, am I even justified in how I'm feeling?
So then you feel like this total conflict within yourself, because you're like, God, like I've got all this stuff I can just feel, but I don't know what to do with it. And I feel even bad because I have great parents and they loved me and they stayed together and they brought me to church. And you're like, there's nothing that should be wrong with me, but I feel these things that I'm in conflict with. Like I couldn't, every time I would even start to like talk through them when I got married, like things that I struggled with, I'd be like, but you know, they did the best they can. They love me. And now allowing myself to go through some of those hard things, now I can actually come around and actually truly hold both. I can know that they love me and they are doing the best they can and did the best they can. And I also experienced my own pain, and my daughter's going to have the same. Like, I'm already full aware. We're going to have some hard conversations where it's like, oh, honey, when you were born, it's like I was just starting to get into some real deep healing. And I know you've got shit you're going to need to tell me. How I abandoned you, how I hurt you, how I wasn't there for you. Like, and I want to be ready for that. But yeah, like I just...
that makes me think of something I saw Aubrey Marcus talking about, is saying that we are... I think he was like having an ayahuasca trip and saw himself as though like all of the bad things in the world, all of the evil thoughts and just desires and just terrible, most things you can imagine, we are, but all the best things in the world, the love, the compassion, we're also that, and it kind of comes down to what you choose to be. Was a point that he was making, and
embracing.
It made me think of that.
That's kind of one of the main things I wanted to talk about today is like embracing the hard stuff, because I think you because there was this disconnect for me, and it'd be interesting to talk to you about this. I have to burp. Within the church, where it's like anything that had like the word like sin around it or something that was hard, like so like our shadows, like so we develop a shadow side when you know a need of ours wasn't met. You know, somebody who should have loved us couldn't. You know, and we develop a mask and we develop a persona, and then that's not really accepted in society because we have all these conditions. No matter where we are, it's like we learn very early, like we're loved if we do this, we're not loved if we do this, and so like we don't know what to do with that one part of ourselves that is like, you know, more shadowy, more dark, more, you know, so we just are like, I guess I'll shove it over here, and we think it's gone until it pops up and you're like, oh, I thought that was gone. And, you know, we keep trying to convince ourselves like that's not a part of me. That's not a part of me. And like, and then for me, it was just like, well, this thing is sinful. So therefore there's the part of me that's like inherently wrong, you know, like this part of me is just, so then I formed like such deep disassociation with myself, like within my psyche of like, because it was a part of me, but now what do I do with it? Like I'm trying to pray it away. I'm trying to pretend it doesn't happen. You know, I did that with a lot of things in my life. And, my shadow didn't come out to hunt me too much. I just lived in a deep state of disassociation, numbness, anxiety, like tons of insomnia, had a hard time sleeping. And I was
as an adult or even at a young age?
All growing up. I mean, I remember I told you guys last time that like I started working at camp at 8th grade, and I think I worked there for like 8 years. I did like every job imaginable. And I remember the immense amount of pressure that I had at that age. Instead of just being a kid, I was like making sure all the kids were sleeping at night and I wouldn't sleep, you know, like, and I was constantly worried, like the director and the people that were above me, like I needed to be good.
I didn't realize you were so young.
Oh yeah.
8th grade.
They sought me out in 8th grade because I learned in my survival mechanism, I learned how to take care of my mom. I learned how to be good so that I didn't cause trouble. I learned how to essentially give all the facts that everybody needed to present myself in a way that was perfect. Because then I was loved, I was praised, people saw me then, because I really wanted to be seen. And that was the way I was accepted to be seen, was to be this really good, perfect girl. And
now you're on this pedestal that you don't want to lose.
Yeah. And even with my own siblings, like I've had to work through that with my own siblings, because it was like, my sister didn't tell me some really hard stuff until like 6 years ago. And she was like, gosh, I don't know why I never told you. I'm like, because I never made you feel like you could be that vulnerable. I wasn't. I was giving you what I wanted to see, because we were always in competition too, like competition among ourselves as siblings for the affection of your parents. Like you all play a different role. And then, so it's and my brother more played the role of like, well, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to be as perfect as her. So I'm going to just go and experience all of life and like live it up. And so we all deal with it in different ways. But yeah, I think like shadow work I'm really interested in right now. Like I've had some experiences recently. It's like it's taken me years to build up to being even willing to go to this place, because I've had to do a lot of deconstruction of like, what do I believe, so I feel safe to like move forward with this. And now I'm like, yeah, I would really like to see like some of these shadows, so the shadows will keep you in a loop, some sort of a loop, until basically like a karmic loop, until
Could
you see it.
Expand on like a specific one as an example, like a loop? like a shadow loop that you recognized and worked through.
I think about one I want to share.
How about the one about Uncle Mark? That one? No.
Uncle Mark.
Okay,
That's
Zach's
mine.
supposed to make
That's
That's Zach.
We'll save that
I don't know
for
why I got
way
those two
later.
mixed up. Of course, that
I'm like, I
wasn't
feel
Mandy.
like I've heard this one before.
Yeah, that's Zach. Sorry,
Zach.
I got it confused.
Well, like my relationship with money. Let's just talk about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a family where so my dad farmed with his brothers, and like my one cousin's, their version of the story of our finance situation was like, we were rich farmers in town, right? My story was like, the opposite. And we never can spend money. Money is scarce and money is also evil. Give your money to the church. Like, it's evil to spend it on anything else. Like, so the scarcity, big time scarcity, and that it was almost wrong to have money kind of a thing. And so like for me, my sister then would hoard, like she won't spend money on anything. And I would just like, I'm like a desperate, like, if there's money there, I'm just gonna like freaking spend it just to feel something, you know? And that created
sure
a
Lee
big
loved that so
conflict in our
much.
marriage because for a long time, that was the biggest argument that we had.
Yeah.
The biggest. And also what tied into that, what made that argument so bad was I never felt like I was enough because I always felt like I was, this leader, but I didn't feel like I earned it. So I always felt like I got to take another course and I need to do this and I need to do that. And I need to make all my pictures look perfect. So I have to pay someone to do photography and Lee is just like, my God, you're wanting to spend money on everything. Like you can do this. You don't need to be doing all these things. So they were both tied into it that deep down, I wanted to be seen for who I was, but I didn't even know who I was. And I didn't believe that one side of me didn't believe I was good enough to, I had to present a certain way to be perfect for my business, for, everything. Mm-hmm. And so like both of those shadow patterns, like were tied in together. And so like that loop kept presenting itself until I finally had to see it, right? And so it's going to keep coming back until you actually like look it square in the face and you're like,
And deal with it.
yeah, and like actually work through it. And it's like, God, where does this come from? Like, why do I keep doing this? Because I'm kind of blowing up my marriage every time I go through this loop, And we have plenty of other loops as well that we've like worked, like some of them we've really worked through. Like I'm sure we'll come back to it at some point and be like, oh, there's still some there,
I feel like that loop thing, is that kind of another way to say like programming?
Yeah, it's a
Often we talk about,
program.
like programming that we get into.
Yeah. Because it's like until we fully make something conscious. So I heard this the other day when I was listening. This had to do actually with sex. But what does sacred even mean, right? Sacred is like what you can treat at, you bring all of your conscious awareness to it. And it is, you notice like the holiness in it, the beauty in it, in the dark and the light. And I really like that idea of like bringing all of your conscious awareness into it, because I think for so much of us, we do live so disassociated, and our shadows just like keep growing in the background. And then it's like, then we're like, okay, we're on pills to like shut it down, anti-anxiety, anti-depression, anti-like this, anti-that. And what's interesting now is there's more people going into the shadows, like more people going into that shadow work to like see it, to embody it. And like, so for me in the embodiment journey, it's learning how to like, okay, the shadows, this part of me, this unhealed part of me is really like present for me this week. So how do I move through it instead of like just with my mind? Because I'm used to like read another book, but I'm like, how can I embody this and move it out of my body, move another layer of this fear, this anger, this like rage, this sadness, this grief? Like, how can I move it out of my body and like love myself and meet myself right here? Because that's weird in our society. Like anything outside of this box of expression, it's like, God, that's weird. Like even already my daughter will say, I'm sure she hears it, daycare, other people, like, I'm not crying, I can't cry. And I'm like, honey, if you need to cry. So every time she cries, I'm like, validate that she should be crying right now. Like, and like, I want to hold her. Like crying is good. Like and even when she's angry, And those times you're like, oh, you know, because that was not acceptable in my house. It's like, you better shut the fuck up or you're
So
in trouble.
if she's like mad and having kind of a tantrum, you try to let her play that out a little bit.
I'll talk with her and
Yeah.
I'll like try to help her acknowledge, like, I know you're upset.
Yeah.
You're upset. And I see that you're upset.
Yeah.
Do you want mommy to hold you? Do you just want to like work through this? Like, what do you need to do? She understands it enough. And if we,
Damn, that's interesting.
If we lock eyes, like,
Yeah.
and she can feel that I actually feel her, it's like, it just brings this peace in her body.
That, like, with my kids, especially like my son right now, as he deals with that. Because I, as you're saying that, like, I don't ask questions. If he's upset, I'm kind of now giving orders on how to fix it.
Oh, I've done the same thing because there's something in me that all of a sudden feels really uncomfortable. And I'm like, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. Like, because
Right,
I'm
you're getting in there, you're
uncomfortable
like,
with it.
Calm down. It's fine. You're okay. You don't need, you know what I mean? You don't need to cry, you know, and as soon as the crying stops, then everything's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that probably creates some issues.
Yeah.
Just lock eyes and be like, you should be crying right now. You screwed up.
Harder. Is that all you got?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, and I know there are so many layers. Like, I'm looking, that's one thing I'm actually like praying about, like calling in is like somebody I can work with for some deep, like somatic. So somatic would be like hands-on body work that's like helps you move through. There's tons of different stuff you could do, different types of breathing, different types of like dance. I've seen energy work where that people they'll have you do breathing and they're working over you and they can sense where heat is in different places. And it's like, you have to almost like allow yourself to fully go there. And it's like, I don't like to take time to do that. Like, I have to fight making that a priority because it's like, oh, I'll just read another book. I'll stay in my mind because that I can control. That once you start getting to emotions and it's like, I don't know what's going to come up. And like, I started this last, gosh, timelines are funny. Probably this, I don't know if it started last winter or like this summer, but even just like dance for me. So that was something that was very like, do not be sensual in any way because you are responsible for every man on the planet's sexual health. You know, like there's something inherently wrong with me being a sensual woman. But when you're married, you better turn that shit on because, you know, like, it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with all this?
3 times a week at 8 p.m. Turn it on.
Turn it on.
I'm going.
Now shut it down.
I want to go back to
I know I talked about
the
it
question
a lot.
that I asked that still didn't get answered,
What did
which
you
you are
ask?
answering
What'd you
right now. The issues with men, the healing that you need, why it was hard to sit down here with us. And now you just brought up because you were one of the reasons why it was put on you that someone else's lust is your fault.
Yes, 100%.
And so now you gotta view men as well. I gotta be as little as I can around them, and I gotta be
absolutely.
as dismissive, and I just gotta just be seen, be quiet,
Only be seen in a very specific Christian way.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting
the
how
only-
that was such a one-way thing, that whole lust thing, whenever that got into our society, right? Like guys didn't ever get like shamed for looking too sexy,
No,
right?
no.
Like, hey, man, that
Or
beard
for
you
like
got rocking,
objectifying
and
women, you know, they didn't get shamed for that.
No.
Like it's just like, oh yeah, like you could look and it was like, it was, if they were being like pig-headish about it, you know, just like catcalling or something like that, it was the girl's fault.
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
just crazy.
literally the message was like, you need to dress this way because guys, you know, it's like, and I've learned now, it's like you could be in a paper bag and guys, this is how we're wired, not just guys too. Like as soon as you allow yourself to like be a human, women also, you know, it's like, but yeah, it wasn't only that, but there was a lot of like for instance, like the camp director, like certain men in my life were very authoritative and very scary to me.
Yeah.
Because that was like God and men in one. Because God was also a man. Like God was only male, except for this like feminine thing. We don't really know where to put that. So God is only male, and he's this authoritative figure that's very that views me all these ways. And so that's why when I finally got through, you know, I went to ministry, I was working in church, and I told you guys that story where I was burning out and having like totally crippling anxiety. I felt like I just couldn't even think straight. Like I couldn't sleep, I couldn't think straight. And I went on that retreat.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
Yeah. And it's like, and I'm trying to read all the sermons and trying to get God to do something for me. And it was in that moment, that second day where I realized, where I kind of had that first breakdown moment where I was like, oh, I don't even believe that you love me. Like that's actually like the heart of this. So I don't actually even believe you love me. Like I don't even know really who you are. And I'm in ministry. I'm leading tons of kids and women, and wow, that was eye-opening, and I shortly left the ministry after that. And that's kind of when I was like, I just needed to get away finally from that role, move to somewhere else, get out of all these codependent relationships, and just finally, I didn't know this though. I didn't know that I was doing it at the time. But at that point when I left, there was this inner knowing of like, this needs to happen. And if you don't, you just might die. Like that's how I felt. Oh. Nobody else could understand that. They thought I was having like a total breakdown, which I was, but it was actually good and necessary, to do that. So, it ties into both of that.
How did they view that happening? Do you know?
By that point, the guy who was like in charge of our whole ministry had transitioned out to a different job. And so he wasn't there to help me transition out. He would have been amazing to transition with. And he actually he talked with like me and Lee quite a few times before we got married. But I don't know how everybody at the church handled it at the time. I honestly don't have a lot of memories of that, the vacuum.
Yeah. Want to run out there and just have to go in the other room, maybe. Yeah. One of the awesome things about doing a podcast in the gym is we're doing a podcast right here in the gym.
Yeah.
What are the negative things? Every now and then people knock on the door, vacuum starts going, things like
Weight
that.
starts slamming.
Weights banging.
Yeah.
Yep. And a good amount of it kind of gets... Okay. A good amount of it gets edited out, but it's kind of hard to catch it out.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. No, so I think that comes down to it, the major thing. So now like learning how to learn like, okay, this is not, I'm rewriting the story of like who God is with both masculine and feminine qualities. Like I was healing that relationship for most of the time before I got to even myself. It was like I needed to start like trying to figure out who God was in my own way.
What triggered you going down that route from... Because it could have gone down kind of more the, say, agnostic, atheist route, where you're like, this is all just like a lie.
Yeah.
Right? But instead, you went a different direction with your beliefs. What was that root?
Yeah, I've always, even as I was a kid, I'd get up during the middle of the night and I would pray and I'd read my Bible. Like I've always longed for a connection with the divine. Always. And so like,
so to you, there's never been a doubt that there is a God, that there is more than just we see.
No.
It's just trying to figure out
just like what that is, and is my perception and off at all. Like, and once I realized like my relationship with this God was actually really painful and actually not what I thought it was, like what I had convinced myself it was. And then without all the pressure of people needing something from me, I could work through it. And I for a while, we did keep going to church here in the area. And then I started to kind of like look for different sermons that were more geared towards like God is love. And that's kind of how it all started. And I would listen to these sermons and I would just be like, it was exactly what I needed at the time. And then it just slowly like evolved. Like I couldn't even, if I go back and think about how it all got to me where I was, but it was almost like God knew exactly like what I needed at each point for like what would connect with me. And that developed my relationship with God even stronger. I started to feel more safe. I started to feel more loved. Started to like go, okay, I'm not crazy for wondering these things. So these are ideas about God that were actually this person's or this group's, and that's why I view God in this way, and that's okay. And I just let God start to love me, and that started to drop some of my walls and my layers. And then things started to get really tough in our marriage, because then I started to, you just start to see like, here's all your unhealed pain. And so that gave me another opportunity also to start going deeper. I was like, wow, I never knew this was inside of me. And now it's coming out. Who is this person? You know? So then that was in the midst of all that too. And
I got to point it out. I just caught it, and I thought that was important. As you said, that gave me an opportunity to start going deeper, and just how you phrase that with the way that you think about that. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Well, that's not how it started, because of course, in the beginning, it was just blamey, because that's what you do when you're like, well, it's yours. It's definitely all you. I'm perfect. Yeah. Remember? That's my persona. So yeah, it really only like all of that is taking me. I've like studied. I don't know. We could talk about that for a whole nother podcast, I suppose. But that finally led me to more like embodiment stuff this year. Like how can I embody and come back to myself? Because this is another aspect of this, to bring it back, was even like to touch myself. It's like my body was not mine to touch. It was only reserved for a future husband that would touch me. And I just didn't touch myself. So like literally not even the simplest of like, so if you can't even feel like this is my body, that's very confusing. And like you do that for 25 years. Yep. And you're like, so to just like a lot of these embodiment practices, to like stare at yourself naked in the mirror and be like, tell yourself like to love yourself, to let yourself see yourself, and to let yourself love yourself, to just learn how to just touch your arm, or to ground yourself in certain ways, and to be like, I'm home, I'm here. Like it's like coming back into your body. Because when you're disassociated, you're just like, you're not really in it. I hardly have any memories growing up. And I've learned that's a trauma response. You learn to leave your body when it's not safe to be in your body. And so then I started to actually pick up on like, oh, when I'm stressed, my whole feminine like sexual organs literally get tight. Oh, because I'm scared. Like I'm in survival mode. And then I started to realize that, and like what situations made me feel unsafe. Like, and then could I start going into those situations and make myself feel safe? Could I, or be empowered to leave? So there's just so many of those things that I've
Can we pause you for 1 second? Please. And then we'll just pick it right back up?
Yeah,
I feel like we got a camera thing we got to figure out here. All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually curious with you guys, because this time I went on a long tangent instead of like going back and forth. So if anything didn't make sense, if you have questions, I feel like now's the time for the last half hour. If you have any questions to talk about it, or any other things you want to say about it.
I did want to talk about the COVID, like how that went for you.
Okay.
When that got shut down, or when everything got shut down, like mentally, what were you going through? Was it kind of like us? We were just kind of like at it was an oh shit moment. What are we gonna do? Or did you? Yeah. What did that look like for you? Yeah. And you mentioned, because I'm curious during COVID, me and my relationship with my wife, like it'll be 12 years. We've been together for 13 years. Next month will be 12 years we've been married. And I think it went all the way up until COVID, where it was battles, freaking battles and battles. And then it's like we were forced to be together. And it was either like, get your crap together and get along. All right, this is how I feel God talks to me. Get your stuff together, you're going to get along, or this is going to be super miserable. Which one do you want to do here? So our relationship with like me, my wife, and my kids like really grew over that time. So maybe talk about that kind of stuff with you, because that was me and Ben have said this before. It's been probably one of the best times for us, for me, and in my life. And it was because we played very close to that. This is serious, and we're gonna risk everything. How are we going to respond to this? Are we just going to shrink back, or are we just going to be like, all right, we're going out with a bang?
And I think there was something about having to learn your own way to cope with just the stress of the situation from a big level. Because if you sit there and read every article that you're reading about what they just found out in Wuhan, or what the deaths in the UK and everything happening there, it's an incredibly overwhelming feeling. I used to listen to a lot. Yeah, I used to be a lot more involved with politics until all that happened, where I finally hit my brink. I listened to a lot of Ben Shapiro back in the day, and I was like, I am just so done. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yep.
And that was the most freeing thing ever, I think.
Yeah. I told people in the congregation, most of that time, turn off your TV.
Yes.
Turn off the news.
Lord.
I don't care. Turn off your Fox. Turn off your CNN. Turn off pointing fingers and everyone else is wrong, and just think for yourself. You know, like if you guys focus so much on God's word as you do on the news and who's wrong and who's right, y'all would be scholars.
Yeah, exactly.
Scholars by now. If you focused on things that actually matter instead of things of the world. This world's gonna fade away anyway, and it came to me like I'm done. I'm not jumping in this left and right crap with people. Some people got angry at the church about it because I wasn't too conservative, or I wasn't yay Trump all the time and all. No, I'm about Christ. I like Jesus, and that's what I'm going to point you guys back to.
You're good?
Yeah. We're good to go?
You were almost in that Trump rally, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful souls back in there.
Cool.
Yep.
You're the man.
Thanks, Zach. That's how he keeps his job here. He just gives
That's
me
what he
so
gets
many
paid to do.
compliments.
That's what he gets paid to do. Is just walk around and encourage.
just stroke my ego all day long.
Ben has to pay people, yes, to stroke his ego and just walk
Makes
around
you
and
want to
give
play
him
that
boosts.
song. There's a song called that.
Yeah, stroke his ego.
Yeah, I'll pull. See if I can pull it
It's
up.
like I keep needing more, so I keep having to pay him more just to keep doing it.
You gotta up your game, Zach, if you want to raise.
Well, I'm getting good. It's just I'm too fast.
Gotta get up.
You're too fast. Indeed.
This morning I was like, man, I really hope he just sends me a text message this morning about how great I am, and nothing. Not till like 11.
Demoted.
Instead, his son was talking about how great me and Zach were this morning. We were outside working.
So this morning
I was not outside working at Ben's house, by the way.
Outside of our house, there's a truck with a trailer with a skid steer parked. And Titus, anytime there's something going on, like yesterday there was a guy weed whipping, and he's like, I want to go out there. We got to go help him. We got to weed whip. We got a project. I'm like, no, that just doesn't work like that. And so there was a skid steer out there.
You can't just go
I
out there
literally
and
got
help.
thinking for a second. I'm like, okay, maybe we could walk over there and try to help this guy that's blowing leaves, but it would be incredibly awkward, and I don't even. Yeah, we'd have to grab a rake. Like, hey, man,
The guy's just like, no.
my kid's gonna learn a lesson here, and you're gonna let us help you. Anyways, this morning, he like ran out the door, and then he came back in. He's like, he said we can come, because I was like, he's not gonna let us help him. And he like runs out the door and then just runs back in. He's like, he said we can come. I was like, oh yeah, who is that? And he's like, it was your friend out there. I was like, oh yeah, who's that? He's like, the one that ate all the food before he ate that really hot chip.
Oh, so that you're like, okay, this is pretty specific. This is probably legit.
Which backstory? We all ate the hottest chip in the world.
And
We
I still
still
happened
gotta-
to eat some food beforehand.
Oh,
So I
so
was
did
safe.
you throw up?
No, it helped me.
Delayed
I
it
did.
though.
It delayed
delays.
yeah.
Oh, that's why.
Yep, because it didn't quite reach my stomach. There was that food barrier. But
We're probably going to be dropping that video around the time that we release this, and so people will be able to see what we're talking about.
Something serious. And
I
then
threw up in
boom.
Ben's garbage.
I thought I heard somebody
Like
threw up.
a couple times. Zach was trying to record me, and I just, it was all bad.
Ironically, the persons whose idea that it was, Chris, just suffered the worst throughout this.
Really?
I'd rather go into the lion's den. Gonna be
Wow.
honest than eat another one of those chips.
Dang.
Those things almost killed me.
Yeah, what did it happen? It was Carolina Reaper and Ghost Pepper?
And Scorpion.
Scorpion. And so I believe, we didn't realize this at the time. We just thought this was a really hot chip you grabbed, but I believe this is the hottest chip in the world and the two hottest peppers in the world, right?
I think so, yeah.
That's nuts.
That is
and
nuts.
I would believe it based
Brave.
on how that went. I think an hour after we did it, I was sitting in...
Yes, what were you doing?
Sitting on the pot.
Sitting on the pot and throwing up into a garbage.
Now I'm regretting even bringing this up. Do I not embarrass myself? I was in my bathroom, doing what you do in your bathroom when you're incredibly sick.
Pooping. He was
Laying
pooping.
on the bed and puking at the same time. And body just pouring with sweat, and I'm on the floor, and I had a couple minutes there where I literally thought I was going to die. I was like, what a stupid-ass way to die. What an embarrassing, stupid way to die.
Butt naked on your floor with poop streaks everywhere.
My
I'm eating a chip.
From
is out there having pizza.
chip.
And I'm in here doing this.
Oh my gosh.
He had some hot chips? No, he had one.
One
chip.
chip.
Jeez.
That was the worst. I think just the taste of it itself was sickening. It just like would turn your stomach. It was disgusting. Okay.
I had to
Anyway,
get rid of the box because we had the box sitting around here, and when I would look at it, I would get nauseous from looking
it's a
at
coffin.
the box.
I bet.
It's a coffin. Yeah.
the box is a coffin that it comes in.
So yeah, that's how Titus referenced Zach. So yeah, the guy that your friend, the one that ate all the food before he ate that hot chip, Zach, and Chris was there too.
Cute.
It was.
I love kids' minds.
Yeah, my
Yeah, he's a liar, though.
the turnout for me was the same as Ben. It just was not.
His was, man,
Mine
from
was-
all the milk he drank and everything. So we had the trash can, and then he's just like, give it to me, and he just grabs it, and it's just pink.
I wish we got that on camera.
Oh man, we had like just
right after we
stopped.
turned
We're
it
like,
off.
all right,
Yep.
I think we're all good. We're just kind of pacing around, and then we stop it, and like 3 minutes later, he's like, give me the trash can.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot. It was awesome. It was so cool. I was right here, and he's like,
So you
right where
didn't throw
you
up
were.
at all?
No,
You didn't have-
He went. Oh my goodness, dude! This is so. So we're in here like
like dying.
death is coming. A customer walks in.
Lower your mic a little bit there, Chris. For some reason, it's not catching you. Okay.
Yeah,
A
actually.
customer. All right, I'm sorry.
There you go.
A customers walk in. He basically wipes his face off.
Yeah, 'cause
Zach
I'm
does.
pouring sweat.
And,
He signed up a
and
membership
he goes
during
up
that.
and signs up a membership during that time. I couldn't breathe.
You are
I couldn't
a
talk.
man, Zach.
I couldn't see anything. I was losing all my senses.
Lord.
He signed
like-
a membership up.
Dude, I was like mocking these guys. I was like,
Wow.
you guys are pussies.
Do we eat a lot of hot stuff?
Well, I do. I don't mind spicy stuff, but it was
But
because
he
of that
has a stomach
food.
full of food.
It was that food, so it
Oh.
didn't hit my stomach like it
Right
did theirs that
away.
were
Yeah.
empty.
So ours came
So
up
what
on the
about
puking
later?
end. Yours hit later
So
that way.
mine was like 6 p.m. Like I had an hour left of work or something, and I was just like, I was like, like I was like, my stomach is just like churning and it's on fire. And Ben's like, you can leave. Little did he know, I did like 10 minutes before that. I was like, I'm going home, dude. Like this is bad.
There's going to
This
be
is
a
how
mess
Tommy's
in my
acting.
car.
And yeah, so basically I just kind of dealt with it, and it was just sitting on the toilet for like an hour. And it's like I can't throw up, but I feel like I'm going to. And it's like just like constipation, because I'm pretty sure my body's like, well, you don't want to come out that end, bro. And then, so yeah, it was just like miserable. And then you just feel like you have a stomach ache. And then it was like 4 a.m. again. I like woke up and just sat on the toilet again for another hour or so, and just
That was the same.
sweating.
The
It was-
worst
Sounds
part
totally
of it, though,
worth
is
it.
when you throw it up, you re-experience it all over again. The burn of it.
You do.
It's so hot. Your
Yuck.
whole throat's back on fire
It's like the
again.
chip comes out
triggers
whole.
nausea.
How did that happen?
It's a magic trick.
Oh my gosh. No thanks.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's going to be eating that chip after listening to
But that was bad. That was a stupid idea of mine.
The very next week, Zach's like, hey, I got some crickets we can eat now.
Oh yeah, so I bought some clam flavored candy canes and some what was it? Sour cream and onion flavored crickets. I was like, yeah, maybe we could do that. And they're just like,
No.
we're not doing
No.
that.
That's not what this. That's not what tea time is about.
I'm not
Never has
putting
been,
anything
never will
else
be.
into my
We did it-
mouth.
We ate a chip once.
Yeah, and you guys will get that. All right, so Mandy, coming back
Yeah.
to you here. I said when Ben was talking about kind of what he did or what we did, you know, when things closed down in COVID and our response. I wanted to hear how yours went. I said we'll come back to this, but I wanted to hear how did your experience during that time go? What was your family dynamic like? What was your mental health like right away? Because mine was all bad right away until I just flipped a switch. Like I'm going all in and I'm going to lose everything. Because now, I mean, you're a trainer. You've been here for some time. How did that affect, I guess, COVID and things? And were you even training during that time, or were you busy trying to be mom?
Yeah.
And probably keep your stuff together. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you?
I was extremely triggered. Like, I mean, I remember we bought. So this was also like the first year of having.
Does that mean you're a Democrat?
I know, every time she says triggered, I think she's the only person that says triggered that doesn't just piss me off when she says it.
So
When
they-
she says it, I'm like, I get it.
What? I guess I'm not even aware of what this thing is. So
No, it's-
anyway, but yeah, like the whole first year of having Tatum, like, wasn't a really great year for me anyway. Like, my brother had committed suicide 8 weeks before I had Tatum.
Yep.
So that I had that going on.
Which is something we spoke about last time. That
time.
you're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm a new mom, and you just feel like life completely changes when you're a new mom and you stop your grieving because now you're taking care of this new human. And I never really liked babies, ever before. And so like,
Amen, girl.
this was like babies just never really like did it for me.
Yeah.
And that was a very hard phase. Like, I didn't do anything for myself. It became more apparent that like, oh, I don't ask for what I want because I don't even know what I want. All I know, and then that wasn't hard for Lee. Like, he just continued on his life as normal and did what he needed to do. And I let a lot of resentment build. And so like that first year was kind of tough for me. Like, I was not doing that great.
You didn't
And
know how to ask what you needed
I
out of a
didn't.
husband, and because your
No.
dynamic,
'Cause that's
Because you
not his
didn't know
fault.
so much.
and you didn't know what you needed
no,
even.
not at all. I was living in a lot of a fog, and so
Sleepless nights.
yeah,
Days.
a lot of sleep. Yeah, because I did all of that stuff because I wasn't working, and he owns a business, and he had, he's got to keep food on the table. So
How did
I did all that.
Really quick on that aspect of it, I imagine there was maybe a small period of time where he was pretty scared with things, but obviously the construction industry boomed since then, so it's probably been good since. But
Yeah,
was it
he's
scary for a little while?
He was scared right away, for sure. Both him and I were scared about more like the big picture of everything, as we all were. But he never really had a dull moment. In fact, he became even busier. So that was awesome. But yeah, then we decided to move. We were actually starting the moving process right before COVID hit. And so I remember moving into our house and being like, this is pointless. I remember literally feeling like I had so much terror in my body. I had a very strong terror response. Like that was the actual word. I ended up working with a energetic like body healer for one session. And she was like, what is mostly coming up for you is terror. And it's like, it's not even yours. It's been turned on, but it's like, it started 5 generations above you, like this survival of terror. Like it was like she was able to find who this person was. And we did some kind of work on me to release this response of terror. But I was literally like paralyzed, like with fear for
is that
quite a
person?
while. She actually, funnily enough, she like travels around, and she was
When you
actually
said
working on my
who that
parents.
person was,
the
do you
5
meant
person.
Oh, she was like my great grandma or whatever. It was they weren't even in the U.S. at the time. Like
Yeah.
it was, and it was. I found out it was on my dad's side, and yeah, Very, very interesting.
This is intriguing. I kind of want to dive into this a little bit.
Okay. Because then literally everything that we worked through was emotional. Grief that I hadn't processed, this terror that was like actually just like a gene thing that got turned on in me. Because genes can turn on and off. Like you carry stuff of your like ancestors in your body plus your experiences. And so like you can, if you're in survival mode, you can turn off certain genes or you can turn on and express things. So yeah, I was literally living in a response of terror. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that is.
That's a whole nother conversation.
And was that a big turning point for you then?
That started to, like, it was right around that time. And then I would say like last winter where things really started to turn around for me. I started to like got off of Facebook because I was just like, that was a very triggering place for me. I was just like, I couldn't even think straight. You know, when you just want to prove a point and everybody's doing that and then people are hurting you and you're hurting them. And it just felt so shitty. And then I still wasn't taking time for myself. I was still
is.
Yeah.
It still is.
It still is.
Changed since you've been gone.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I just feel like for my mental health, I need to step away from Facebook because I couldn't even just get off it myself. So I'm like, I'm going to delete it. And that freed up more bandwidth. Like, so now I'm not spending like 5 hours a day on Facebook. Yeah. And then I tried to get rid of Instagram, but I couldn't for some reason. I just like, and of course, like you can't get a hold of anybody with Instagram. So, which I'm glad that I didn't get rid of that in hindsight.
That one doesn't get as tied up into politics.
No, and I barely have a lot of people I follow on that page. So that was fine.
It's just more pictures and kind of memes and stuff. So it's not like, I mean, you could write comments, but it's nothing like Facebook is. No, I haven't seen anyway.
No,
it doesn't seem debative. Like the format of it isn't quite so debative.
No, it's a cool place I think where you could put your pictures and memories and memes.
Because you never really like, oh man, you just see that thing they got into over on Instagram. Like he posted this and then she said
it's always Twitter or something.
Yeah, that's a Facebook.
I don't want to be a part of that.
So if there's a healthy one to keep, that's probably it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that all helped. And then I just started ingesting books and podcasts. Yeah. That literally like all of a sudden opened up this whole new world. And it all started with Aubrey Marcus. Yeah. And like listening to him, and then it was like all these guests he'd have on, I'd start following them, and then books they're recommending because I'm following them on social media. And then it just like, it's almost like what you're looking for comes to you. Mm-hmm. So I stopped looking for the drama and I stopped looking for that. And I was like, oh, this is reflecting back to me that I actually am not well. I have a lot of mental health issues that I need to address. Mm-hmm. Like it's very clear with how I'm handling social media that I'm not well. So I should probably get well. And so
don't go back to social media then.
Yeah, like I have zero desire to go back to it. Like the people I follow on Instagram are all uplifting. Yeah. I learn something from them all the time, and I'm just like, I'm surrounding myself with people and people that I know and people on the gram that only encourage me and teach me and make me feel like I'm not alone and make me want to keep growing. And so I it has then now changed our marriage immensely because I started to find some really deep like things for healing in our marriage. And then for me coming into a lot of this like feminine embodiment has helped us immensely. And so it's like our marriage is better than it's ever been. Yeah. Like we are both like, holy crap. This is like, I'm so glad we're doing this together. Yeah. Like, so, nice. Yeah. Nice. So since basically this winter, my whole life, I feel like has changed. And on top of that, it's almost like, it almost gave me that push to be like, to actually start talking about all the stuff that I'm learning about. Cause I kind of kept a lot of this stuff quiet. Cause I'm like, God, if people knew all these things I'm looking into and thinking about, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, another traumatic event of like, I'm going to have all my family and all my friends once again telling me how wrong I am, you know?
I like that you did it that way though, that you took a lot of time.
Yeah.
Most people, I think when you learn something new, you're like equally ready to repeat it. You're excited about it. I do that all the damn time. The second I'm on something that I'm interested in, it's just all that I talk about. Mm-hmm. And
it's lame.
You made
and I end up spending money like on Dogecoin and stuff like that.
My Dogecoin is I got
You know
my
what?
ass
We don't
kicked
even
on Dogecoin, man.
We don't even got to go there right now.
$3,000.
I know. I still have Dogecoin. I get that.
But I remember one time you were talking about I think it was like holding water, something like that, right? With as you're, you know, we're all familiar with the concept of like you can't pour out you can't pour from an empty cup, right? We're all very familiar with that concept, but I've never thought it in the perspective of if there's something that we're learning or something that we're excited about, sharing it too quickly is very dangerous. Even actually, it kind of happened to me a little bit as I'm starting writing something, and I just kind of had a few pages in it, and I showed it to Zach, and even afterwards, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I just shouldn't have done that. Actually, just I need to be at a certain point within myself with whatever that is, something that I'm learning, something that I'm trying to process before I'm ready to share it, and I think that's very important, and I love the way that you've done that with all of this, because you're kind of at that stage right now where you're ready. You're ready to start opening up about who you are.
Yeah, because I feel safer now. So it's like you almost have that internal intuition to know, like, am I ready to be seen yet or not? Or am I like, or you have that internal knowing of like, I'm still deeply working through something. So if I put myself out there now, it could be traumatic, you know? And so like, I'm learning how.
All it takes is the one wrong thing. Like, oh, really? That's what you're, and then you're.
Yeah. And it's like, and I've been through it like for the last 11 years, like as I've like looked into different things, I've been through it with my family, you know, like it's tough. So I'm like, I'm not going to start opening myself up until I know I can hold this. So I'm learning how to like allow myself to get filled up. And as soon as I start to feel that like I get out of balance again, I'm like, okay, I got to get filled up. And now I'm learning to trust. Like if I'm able to hold this, then the more I can hold, the more I can give. But if I'm constantly spilling out and I can't hold on to anything, because it's like kind of like money. It's just like, I don't feel like I deserve it. I don't feel like, so it's just like, it just constantly, I don't hold it. I'm just letting it go. But I'm learning how to hold love within myself and hold these treasures within myself. And
hold space for yourself.
And hold space for myself so I can actually, like, my friendships, like, with women have been changing immensely. My relationship with my husband has been changing immensely with everyone. Because I feel like I'm just, like, I'm here. I can help hold space. I'm not in a trauma response of trying to listen to something, to say what I need to say, to be something. I'm just present and, like, wanting to, like, hear from you. And I'm wanting to be with you. And it's all, so... Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
I feel like it's a weird thing, and I don't know if this is if it's by chance or if it's just how things like this in life work. But like what you're talking about right now, like especially both of you guys, like with your deepening connection in this same time period with your spouse, like I could go on hours talking about how much my connection with my wife has deepened right around that same period of time and in very similar ways. And I think part of it is it's more internal. I think as we work through stuff ourselves and we feel worthy, we love ourselves, we're not caught up in our insecurities, right? When your spouse kind of says something that might kind of set you off, might trigger you, might set you off a little bit, and because you have a little insecurity about that, you're going to take that the wrong way, and now this just digs deeper and deeper. And if your insecurity isn't there, if you're just very comfortable with how you're doing as a husband or whatever, just who you are, you know that you're doing your best, you're happy, you're good, that you're comfortable and you're content with who you are, that stuff doesn't manifest into something worse. Instead, you can actually sit back a little bit, like, oh, what's going on with her that she is doing that? And instead of having something snidey to say back, you can put your walls down, like, what's going on? And it just changes everything.
But that's not fun. Like there's times it's just like, you know what? Today it's on. You wake up a lot of times and you just want to ruin my day. Today is my time. And so
As I was talking about
But do you guys get off on that too? It sounds like you guys get off on that.
I don't.
No?
I get tired of my day just being plopped on whenever my wife is like, everyone's going to pay. I don't. Yeah.
Oh, I almost spit out my water.
So how do you plan on stopping
I just
from
wanted to
hearing this
ruin that.
podcast? What's your plan there?
No. But yes, you are absolutely right. There are days I wake up and I just want to rebel like she does.
There's something to that. I think you should explore that.
I should explore that more often. Just wake up and like, you know what? Not today.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to get it.
Yeah.
Everyone. And just be okay with everyone getting it. And just, because I am quick to apologize. I'm quick to I'm quick to realize though my own sin, my shadows, if what you were calling it, the things in my life that I need work on. And yeah, I'm just quick to apologize. I just sometimes need to just let it ride. Just let people be mad and just blow up the town for the day.
Yeah, because sometimes people maybe just need to get mad and they don't, if you're not giving them anything back, they've got to play it out themselves. Like, what are they really pissed about?
Yeah.
Like, what do you actually want here? Like, have at it.
Yeah. Yep.
And sometimes I think Chris has been saying this a lot with me and Zach. And it's both kind of helped us a little bit of like, sometimes you just have bad days and they're bad and there doesn't need to be a reason.
Right.
And that is a really freeing thing because otherwise you end up going down this. I mean, you just kind of work through that yourself, Zach. You just kind of go down this hole of like, I feel like crap today. I feel unfulfilled, not happy. I don't feel grateful. I'm just
as well.
cranky as hell. And so you immediately are trying to diagnose what's going on that's causing that. And I think a lot of the times that creates more problems than what
anxiety.
But you're in
solves.
resistance with it.
Digging up old problems and stuff like that. And
This is what you're talking about. Like, you don't know what's wrong. There's just something wrong.
Sometimes you literally have to go, like you have to go with it instead of create resistance with it and label it and say it's bad and I need to fix this and this needs to go away. It's like, maybe I just need to do something really weird to get this out of me. Like just, and see what's behind that. Cause maybe when you start doing that, you might be like, oh God, that's actually really freeing to just embody this emotion. Yeah. I actually like, I'm scared to do that. Like I'm just slowly like letting myself even do that. Like when I start to feel that come up inside me, you're like, this feels weird. But afterwards you're like, oh God, that felt really good. Cause that's what I wanted to do. I was pissed as hell and I wanted to just be pissed and obviously try to not hurt other people in the process. And that's something too, where Leah and I will give each other space for. If he's just like, this is where I'm at. I'm going to let you know right now. Like I can't go here, but this is like, we can talk about, he's very clear and he's taught me how to do that too, where it's like, okay, I don't need to discuss this with you. This is something I'm going to work through on my own. I love you, but I don't owe you anything more than that. This is my boundary. And it's like, hey, now you got your shit to deal with and that's no longer on me. You didn't put it on me and you told me what you needed. It's like, God, that's freeing.
This just crossed my mind as you're talking about that. Zach, you're so lucky because the relationship that
you're
you get into
you get
next,
to go home by yourself with no kids and you don't have someone yelling at you all day.
Because we're talking about a lot of like relationship, family stuff, and you're single right now.
He's got cats.
Well,
good call.
You're lucky in the fact that you're going to get to go into relationship and a marriage with all of this knowledge and understanding that I think a lot of us didn't. And obviously there's certain things that you just have to go through yourself. But I think back to what I understood in relationships and just myself at the time of getting married, and it was vastly less.
No, I already got it all figured out.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
what's the game plan?
Whoever is interested.
Will you marry
Zach?
my wife?
Yeah.
Single.
Will you? My wife needs someone to cater to her, please.
You do some reverse Mormonism stuff. Where
There it is.
It's
Like,
two husbands.
no, you know what? I got the perfect man for you, sweetie.
Hey.
I'm getting him for Christmas. Hi, guys.
She just hears a knock at the door.
Hi, Alexis. You know,
He's got health years on.
he lives here now, sweetie.
I'm going to have to wrap it up here really soon because I'm going to, just so you know.
All right, something really quick I just want to comment on, if we can, as we wrap this up. From hearing your story last time, we got a lot more in depth in your story last time, and listening to you now, it sounds like you have completely had your identity stripped away from you, except for what everyone else thought of you, and you thought that's how God thought of you. And the thing is that it isn't how God thinks of you. That's their opinion and their vision of you. And that if I could tell you something, don't be afraid to have your own identity. Like, God has given you one and only. He hasn't given you one like mine. He hasn't given you one besides we are made in his image. But it's just, you are an individual, and that's really how you need to just rock out. Your parents are going to have, and I don't want beef with them. I don't want beef with no one. They're going to have their opinions of you.
Yeah.
Others will have their opinions of you. Your clients will have your opinions. Your husband will have your opinions. But man, seriously, when it just comes down to it, is who has God created you to be? Let them be who God created them to be, and you be who God has created you to be. And there is no man or this crazy submitting stuff that you went through. There's a purpose for that in the man's home. But the man should be worthy to be submitted to as well. And by I mean is the way he loves his wife and treats his wife. So how that was shown to you, I'm sorry, because that is garbage. But man, you said, I just want to have feelings. Have them.
And I am. This is my kind of anthem right now, is I just want to be fully expressed.
Yep.
And feel like I want freedom. I wrote that all over my new room for my own personal embodiment practices. It's like when we were painting it, I just kept writing freedom, freedom, freedom. And that's how I feel. And so now when I'm with people, I don't feel that weird codependent, like I need to be something for you to need, feel good, for me to feel safe. I'm able to finally distinguish that and be like, this is me.
Yep.
And that's okay if that's your idea or your projection. Like, I'm safe to be me.
Yep.
And I'm learning every day, and with more and more people, it's like, it's grounding it more in me. It's like, okay, I am doing this. And it's like, but I really appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know one thing that God, well, you probably know this as well. Those who belong to God, he will not let go of. He will not release, regardless what you're looking for or what you're going through right now, trying to find you and who you are. I think the beauty of that is he who started a good work in you will bring it to completion. So, I'm not trying to turn this into that, but
I appreciate it. I really do.
I just want you to know, be you and do you. And those shadows, those sins and stuff, that's what we're called to do, is kill them in our life. Whatever you say. I
disagree with the killing part, but I love the sentiment. I love the sentiment.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah. So
it's cool.
That's all I got.
I love watching you guys interact because you're
it's
very
healing
different,
for me. It's very
similar
healing for
but
me.
different. Very similar but opposing spectrums at the same time, and
just
watching
a little
that,
bit different perspective or different idea, but similar heart. The similar thread is
that's
like
why
the
I'm
heart.
not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong. Your opinion is your opinion. Like my opinion is my opinion. His opinion is his opinion. And that's one thing is
Zach's opinion.
Well, Zach's opinion is right.
Zach's opinion is right. Yeah. And so it's you're allowed to have them. People shouldn't feel the need to be able to take that away from you or me or anyone else. So we should probably wrap this up.
Thank you so much for being able to get in here last minute.
Yes.
This was an excellent time. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. Next time we can talk about training.
Yeah,
sounds
good.
We can.
Sounds good.
And maybe Zach will speak more too, because I feel like me and Ben
Poor Zach,
and you did a whole bunch.
No, that's fine. I there's still just some more technical issues with that, so that just kind of kept preoccupying my mind.
We'll work through them.
But,
I know that
we will.
Yeah, let's plug you. Refit your own fit. If you want to know.
Refit.ownyourfit.
Yeah, that's what it is.
If you want to follow me on fitness, which I'll talk about again, but especially if you're a woman out there, and you're interested
Preferably
in
women out there.
Well, for this other page of mine. I mean, any woman who's like on the journey, that's wanting to find herself and figure out what she wants, what she desires, how to come back into herself, because that's what I'm doing. I'm not a leader in this field. I'm literally just sharing stuff that I'm growing from. And
You're
then,
a real person, basically.
Yeah, and sharing like every once in a while how it's impacting me. There's like, I post when I feel like posting. It is just like, it's literally my raw footage journey, in time journey, like journey of like what's happening. So that is Remember Her 9, if you want to follow that.
On the gram?
On the gram.
On the gram.
Sweet.
Yep.
Well, thank
So-
you again for coming. We will definitely be sitting down with you again. This will, there'll be a part 2.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
all right.
Or part
Thanks,
3.
guys.
Thanks for
Yeah,
listening,
of
folks.
course.
Thanks.
That was fun.